Today's special guests are Jamal Wallace, up-and-coming writer from Mailer Academy, Booker T. Washington, world-renowned public speaker and Black rights advocate, and Frederick Douglass, famous advocate of equality for all. Thanks for being on the show with us today, guys. It's always a great pleasure to be in the presence of such influential figures.
Thank you so much for having us
Thanks
here.
for having us.
Thank you.
So, to start off the show, I want our viewers to get to know each of you. We want to know what your circumstances and hardships were like throughout your life. Jamal, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you've experienced?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in a poor area of the Bronx. There was crime, drug dealers, and conspicuous poverty. Along with these conditions, my father walked out on us when I was little, leaving only my mother to take care of my brother and me while still working her job. She worked hard and made sure I did too, so I'd be better off later in life. In contrast, most of the kids at school didn't like exceptional work. They discouraged it, so I began to drop my grades to fit in. Finally, when I was accepted to Mailer, I faced prejudiced teachers that didn't believe in my capabilities to perform at that academic level. They thought, since I was both a basketball player from the Bronx, that I couldn't keep up academically.
Wow, that sounds difficult. How about you, Mr. Washington? What struggles have you had to conquer?
Well, I was born into slavery. However, I was freed by the Emancipation Proclamation when I was 9. My family had nowhere to go and no idea how to find, let alone afford, proper housing. Once we found housing and a job, the pay was inadequate since there were no regulations as to how much ex-slaves were to be paid. I knew that ex-slaves were paid less because of their lack of education, so I made it a point to become educated so that I could accomplish more in my life than just living day to day on minimal pay.
I can't even imagine having to go through that. Last but certainly not least, Mr. Douglass, would you like to share with the audience?
Gladly. Unlike Mr. Washington here, I was not free until I was in my 20s. Because I grew up inhibited by the institution of slavery, it was difficult to gain any form of education. You see, the slave owners knew that as long as we were kept down by the bonds of ignorance, we would not be able to rise up against them. Any form of education was kept from us, and our senses of family and individuality were brutally suppressed by any means necessary. Using myself as an example, various members of my family, like my poor old mother, worked in different areas of Mr. Lloyd's properties. Therefore, I rarely saw her. Our birthdays were not remembered or recognized. In this way, we were dehumanized through lack of identity and education.
Well, that is determination if I've ever heard it. You all have encountered difficult experiences. Could you delve further into how you were able to overcome these hardships you've been faced with?
Absolutely. While my grades dropped in school, the more I began to read and write. This proved worthy to me in the long run. Reading and writing really aided me when I took required standardized tests. My scores were exceptional. They're so good that Mailer, one of the most prestigious schools in Manhattan, took interest in me. The board offered me a full scholarship to attend because of my test scores and my ability to play basketball. My decision to attend Mailer was one of the most pivotal moments in my life. At that point, I started working hard both in the classroom and outside, perfecting my writing and receiving higher education that could get me further in life.
I owe my success of overcoming my obstacles and dealing with hardships to education and hard work completely. I worked very hard and saved my money so that I had the opportunity to travel to be educated. Once I arrived at the Hampton Institute, I learned I had to work at night to pay off my schooling, which I didn't mind. Working part of my tuition off was an incredible learning experience and taught me the best way to go about my life, not getting anything that you don't earn, and the best way to educate future generations.
When I first vowed to learn to read and write, I belonged to Hugh Auld. One evening, I overheard him explaining to Miss Sophia why it was essential that she stopped teaching me to read and write, which she'd been doing up until this point. I knew then that reading and writing was of vital importance in the question of my freedom. I risked punishment constantly, but was determined in gaining any form of education I could. Once I had learned to read, I later developed a plan of escape. Despite this attempt being thwarted by the betrayal of a friend, you know who I'm talking about, I was undaunted and eventually figured out how to escape. I hired out my time and saved up enough money, tricking my owner into complacency and a false sense of security before I finally escaped the bonds of slavery into the North.
You gentlemen are all truly an inspiration, but I have to ask, how did cooperation between races help your causes?
Cooperation between races helped me in 2 ways. The board of Mailer was willing to allow me to attend on a full ride and my friend and mentor, William Forster, helped me perfect my writing. The board of Mailer helped me because without their generosity, I would not have been able to receive a high education that I did. Also, William helped me because he taught me the essence of skill of writing well and beautifully. I owe a lot to him for giving me that capability.
There were many good men willing to help the rescue of the black man in his darkest hour. Many well-known abolitionists, such as William Lloyd Garrison, Abraham Lincoln, or Wendell Phillips, are amongst the many.
Excuse me. Jamal, could you please just hold the basketball?
But ball is life.
Just hold the basketball.
As I was saying, these three men were amongst the many whites willing to help the abolitionist cause. Garrison, the founder of the American Anti-Slavery Society, and Wendell Phillips, the president, advocated the emancipation of blacks and worked tirelessly to create a better world for slaves. Abraham Lincoln, of course, signed the document that would grant us our freedom.
Now, who would you say had the biggest influence or impact on your life and what you stand for?
As I said earlier, William Forster had the most influence on my life. He not only taught me to write, but he also taught me how to express my feelings and connect with my audience. He gave me a gift that has already carried me far in life. Without his aid and instruction, I could have not accomplished what I have so far. Currently, I'm writing a prequel to a book of his that was published after his death. I intend on using all the skills he gave me to make sure that it is peace he would truly be satisfied with.
Samuel C. Armstrong had a major impact in my life when he recommended me to get the Tuskegee School up and running. He taught me everything I know about the style in which I was educated and how to be someone who is a productive member of society. He gave me the opportunity to grow the Tuskegee School. Some of my other benefactors also include the two rich women from Boston, Andrew Carnegie, John Rockefeller.
Okay, we all read the book. We get it. Let's move on to what Mr. Douglas has to say.
That sounds like a great idea. Once my wife Anna and I had both escaped to the north, we were taken in by the wonderful Mr. Nathan Johnson. Anna and I were in need of food and shelter, and this man, without a second's hesitation, provided us with anything and everything we needed. He even paid our travel debts. He and his wonderful wife showed such wonderful character. I am forever grateful for the amazing kindness we were gifted with.
Wow, Mr. Douglas, I must ask, how did you manage to escape?
I can't talk about it.
Not even a little
No,
bit?
it's classified.
You can't give the smallest of details.
No.
Mr. Douglas.
Roll the clip.
Okay. It's incredible how you have endured so many harsh experiences and still think kindly of these people. Thank you once again for taking the time to join us here today. We'll be right back after the break with a special surprise. Stay tuned to find out what we have in store. Thank you.